media. He's a dad. He's an amazing friend. He's an amazing strategic advisor. Everybody else. So that's Gary sort of in the business world, the Gary that probably everybody sees on Instagram. But the reason why I asked Gary to join me today is that each month I'm featuring leaders that exhibit qualities that I think are super important. So those qualities around humility and generosity and vulnerability. And today I'm talking authenticity. Now, Gary exhibits all these amazing leadership qualities, so we can zig and zag and talk about any of them. But I want to talk about authenticity with you. So thanks again for joining.
Happy to do it. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
So Gary, have you always been your authentic self, or were you ever at a time when you were younger, like not fully comfortable and like wore a mask because you had to be a different person you thought maybe in school or another environment, like, or you just always been this way?
I don't know what combination of what my mom did from a parenting standpoint, the DNA I was naturally given, and then the circumstances of immigrating to the US and, maybe feeling like an outsider all the time anyway, because I didn't speak English at first when I kind of first hit preschool, kindergarten. Whatever that was, like, you were just asking the question, and where my mind went to was third grade. And, I remember third grade very, very, very well. And I remember just already being the kid in our class where even by third grade, you start getting into like groups of like, who's popular, who's not, all these weird things. I just remember not willing to compromise on who I would interact with. I didn't feel peer pressure in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. In a weird way, there were two things that were driving me: business and kindness. It was important to me to be nice to everybody in my class, like genuinely important, which really fucks you up if you want to be popular, like that old school popular. Because
Totally.
There's a level of meanness that was in popularity. And number two, business. Like I remember like wanting to go to a baseball card show instead of like a very popular party I was invited to in 6th grade. And I went to the baseball card show and did the show instead of going to this like very strategically important 6th grade party that would have put me in that, right? And I think if you're able to get through those adolescent years of not needing to fit in, well then grown-up land is really easy, right? And so yes, I feel very comfortable that I've always been willing to be me versus and then I had the third variable, which was I was a bad student. And I had teachers that really genuinely, like 1980s style, non-politically correct, would like say I was going to be a loser and like not succeed. And so I was extremely, and they, they didn't come from a bad place. It was just more acceptable to say you're going to be a loser in 1987 by a teacher to a kid that's getting Fs than it is today. And I just never felt compelled to conform.
But Gary, so you're going back to third grade, and you're right. In so many cases when kids are younger, often popularity contests, you can get there by being mean. And creating sort of a view that you've got the cool group and then there's the non-cool group, and having kids have that center of gravity to like not lose themselves and to be kind is really hard. So do you think it was something with the parenting of your mom and dad, the way they brought you up? Like, because that is a hard thing for kids to find their true North Star at that young age.
Especially with the nuance as I'm older now. My mom made me feel like $1 billion, but didn't make me delusional or entitled, which just blows my mind. What a tightrope to be able to walk, right? Like,
totally.
Like I feel like I was brought up in an era where it wasn't popular to make your kids think that they were the greatest. And I think the last 20 years, we've gone through an era where parents make their kids or try to make their kids feel like the greatest, but both were out of balance. tough, like today's generation is the generation where the over coddling and eighth place trophies has led to, and that's a macro thing. There's plenty of parents that crush the balance or don't make their kids feel like $1 million, which is even worse. Yeah, I think my mom's ability to build self-esteem without me feeling like I didn't become entitled and delusional like a lot of, I had a meet and greet with a kid in my company last week who's 22 years old, who literally asked how quickly they could become a VP. And I said, yeah, let's talk about it. What I didn't understand was she meant in the next 24 months.
For her, she wanted to become a VP. Like in her head, she thought that was what was happening.
And I kind of like took advantage of the opportunity to just actually learn and say, like, I wanted to understand. And what I ultimately understood was between parents being so involved in, I think there's a big thing that's missing with kids. It's that they don't play outside anymore. And what I mean by that is no matter how much my mom made me feel like the way she did, I had to go outside and get into fights, lose games, like skin my knee. Like everything is so controlled now, like that I think people don't realize that when you go into real life, it's not controlled.
Such a good point. Yep.
And so anyway, I'm getting on a tangent. My mom, yes, what she did was she found balance and self-esteem without delusion. And that made me not feel peer pressure. My mom was Nancy Reagan'd out, so she was like, don't do drugs. And I didn't do drugs because I didn't want my mom to be upset because I loved her. And I was willing to give up popularity for that because I really didn't care enough about Stacy Johnson's opinion of me, even though she was the most popular girl in our 8th grade class. Big shout out.
I love it. I love that you remember that. So
most boys remember Stacy Johnson in 8th grade.
Okay, well, if she's watching, I would like to meet her. She should ask to join on live. Talk to me about the workplace, right? You bring your full self to work. Like what